Harry Potter's film debut in 2001 presented a large challenge for director Chris Columbus. How do you translate the world of Harry Potter to the screen and make it feel as magical as it feels for Harry in a time when computer-generated effects weren't amazing? Although a lot of the world's magic is developed from the original book, the film specifically creates its own magic through the incredible soundtrack from John Williams, the set design that gives audiences a view of what Hogwarts looks like, as well as the way Chris Columbus captures the magical actions of the film from Quidditch to wizard's chess. Creating a great fantasy world isn't just limited to Harry Potter, and being able to capture some sort of magic within the world of the film makes the stories being told larger than life, with some directors like Tim Burton and Guillermo Del Toro building their career on their ability to create worlds that enthrall audiences. In this video, I'm going to examine each element that makes Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone a magical film, as well as how a strong fantasy world can enhance the meaning of a film. One of the most immediately recognizable elements of Harry Potter is the soundtrack from John Williams. Best known for doing the music for Star Wars and Jaws, he brings his talents to the world of Harry Potter to create a soundscape as inspiring to the audience as Hogwarts is to Harry. Beyond just the quality of the music used in the film, there's so many different songs used throughout the film, with each big scene having its own specific song. The scene that really stood out to me was when they played Quidditch. This scene is an audience's first exposure to Quidditch outside of the books, so it's such a big moment to show off something creative and potentially difficult to adapt to the screen. For such a big moment, the music is similarly exciting, making you feel like you're not just at a sports event, but one that is very much magical. It starts with this big display as the players soar into the sky on their broomsticks, flying around the Quidditch pitch as the camera soars into the sky to give you an overview of what Quidditch looks like, with this being the first visual representation of Quidditch. With these grand displays comes a high-energy, soaring instrumental track that gets you excited for the match that's about to happen. The film just lets the music wash over you as you take in the sights and energy of the magical sport. So much focus is given to the Quidditch scene because it's one of the most magical moments in the first film. It's something that we cannot do in our non-magical lives, which is special, but it also brings back these nostalgic feelings of playing sports at a young age. The music here transports you to another time when you were younger, but it also transports you to a world where magic is real, and that's part of what makes the first film so special. Beyond the Quidditch pitch, there are loads of other great uses of music that make the world of Harry Potter feel magical. When Harry's home is flooded with letters from Hogwarts, you get this music that's surprising and exciting, just like Harry's revelation that he has all this mail. When he first enters Diagon Alley, there's this quirky music that indicates to the audience that they're stepping into a world imbued with magic rather than just normal Britain. And when Harry gets sorted into the Gryffindor house, there's this celebratory music to show him being placed with his friends and away from the Slytherin house.
Gryffindor!
The music by itself transports you to another world, but what makes it truly spectacular is the way it works alongside the scenes of action within the film. As previously mentioned, the Quidditch match is one of the best scenes in Harry Potter because of the feeling it creates. Part of that is the music, but the way it shows everyone flying around on broomsticks makes it such an exciting scene that really feels wondrous. Earlier in the film, the rules and equipment of Quidditch are introduced to the audience to prime them for what to expect, which allows the Quidditch match scene to show you everything as if it's completely normal. By freely showing these players flying around and playing this sport, it feels like your screen is a window into another world. It's familiar enough to the audience, blending basketball and dodgeball, but also very distinctly magical with players on broomsticks. During this scene, the camera follows players of different roles to both create a narrative and help solidify the connection to sports that the audience would know. The way Quidditch action is rooted in our world but evolves into something magical makes it more impactful for the film. If it was a sport completely controlled by magic and totally foreign, audiences wouldn't be able to understand or relate. This magical evolution of a real-world game is seen towards the end of the film when they play wizard's chess. This game follows the same rules as normal chess, but all of the pieces are alive. At the end of the film, the stakes are increased with life-size pieces which Harry and his friends have to become as if they are the king, queen, and knight. Using a chess game as a climactic battle really works well here because the audience understands the rules of chess, and the turn-based nature of the game means that the players can discuss how they're going to win as well as any sacrifices. Just as the chess pieces in this scene are life-size, adding magic into the mix makes the scene feel larger than life. The discussion isn't just, we need to move this piece or sacrifice this knight. Harry and his friends have to actively move themselves to make the strategic decisions they want, with pieces exploding into fragments when taken. This all comes to a head at the end of the game when Ron has to sacrifice himself so that the others can win the game.
He's going to sacrifice himself. No, you can't! There must be another way!
Because it's a turn-based board game, they all had to discuss Ron's sacrifice and accept that it was going to happen. And with the magical element of Wizard's chess, it's so much more impactful because you see Ron's horse get shattered into pieces as he falls unconscious. There are tons of other great scenes in the first Harry Potter film, and what makes them so great is that with the familiar set dressing of a school and classrooms, it introduces magical elements that feel so natural and familiar that the world feels real despite the fantasy. One of the more overlooked elements of what makes Harry Potter such a great film is the set design. From the interior castle of Hogwarts to the dining halls to the outdoor areas, so many of those movies' locations look incredible, always feeling like a slightly more perfect and magical version of reality. Chronologically, one of the first amazing sets you see is Diagon Alley. For the audience and for Harry, this is the first experience to the real wizarding world, and Diagon Alley sets itself apart from normal Britain. The first shot clearly shows the difference, with buildings and the street uneven and askew, as if Diagon Alley is bursting at the seams with magical shops. Everything shown as Harry and Hagrid walk around builds up the magic of the moment. Everyone is wearing ornate wizard garb, obsessing over products that are clearly magical like a broomstick, and the storefronts are all designed to be very different from a normal city. The final shot of Diagon Alley shows off Gringotts Bank, which is fantastical just from its exterior, with distorted columns and walls that make it look straight out of a Dr. Seuss book. After leaving Diagon Alley, Harry makes his way to Hogwarts, which is when the magic of the film really kicks in, as you see the model of Hogwarts designed by model supervisor Robbie Scott.
When I saw Hogwarts on film, as we track across the lake and Harry Potter sees it for the first time, was one of the most memorable points in all of the films, I feel.
Once you're inside Hogwarts, you're placed within these incredible sets that combine classic images of a castle with slightly magical touches like floating candles, tables that produce food, and a magic ceiling.
It's not real, the ceiling. It's just bewitched to look like the night sky.
This goes back to what I said earlier about the familiar and the fantastical. The design of Hogwarts Castle is familiar enough as a castle to audiences, but then it twists it with a little bit of magic to surprise audiences. Once you leave Hogwarts, the outside sets are just as magical. Hagrid's hut stands out just as much as he does, looking like something from Lord of the Rings more than a grand fantasy castle. Once you step into his hut, it becomes even more magical, with the proportions of everything different from usual, with furniture being twice as big as Harry and his friends. The design of Hagrid's hut gives you a look into the folklore side of fantasy as opposed to strictly magic, with Hagrid taking care of dragons and having beast cages all throughout the hut. As much as the music and action of the film make Harry Potter magical, I think the sets are the most impactful parts of the movie that makes it feel fantastical. The design of Hogwarts makes the world feel like it could really exist, making you feel immersed in the lives of these characters, making it feel like a school of magic is only just out of reach from our daily lives. A good fantasy world can do a lot for making a film memorable, with some directors like Tim Burton being remembered mostly for their ability to create inventive and visually interesting worlds. An incredible world makes a film believable. You can have great characters and writing, but if their world doesn't feel believable, then everything feels foreign and there's a disconnect. The purpose of a good fantasy world is to shape and amplify the emotional feelings in a film. For example, the world of Conan the Barbarian is so great because of the crafted sets and miniatures that make everything seem as barbaric and untamed as the main character, really placing you in the shoes of Conan. Even with the same story, a good world can separate a masterpiece from just another movie. There's a reason Lord of the Rings is universally acclaimed and Hobbit is looked down on. Some directors have spent their careers refining their approach to making worlds, and as such, a movie from them is immediately recognizable. One of the most classic examples of this is Tim Burton and his dark, gothic worlds. His worlds are incredibly theatrical, drawing from the harsh shadows and sharp geometry of German Expressionism. Expressionist films use the design of the world to express feelings and amplify what a character is feeling. Edward Scissorhands is perhaps the best example of this, with Edward's design looking straight out of the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and his home looking like the gloomy castle of Nosferatu. Without any words, you can understand a lot about the character of Edward just by looking at him and where he lives. Even though the sets are theatrical and larger than life, you can buy into them because they express so much feeling and feel so alive. A more contemporary director who has the same approach to fantasy films is Guillermo Del Toro, well known for his monster movies and detailed worlds, including the 2025 adaptation of Frankenstein.
I am obscene to you, but to myself I simply am. Begone!
Del Toro's focus revolves around the creatures in his films, and the world served to make the creature feel at home. One of the clearest examples of this is The Shape of Water, which sees a woman fall in love with an amphibian creature. Without a proper world, this would be an absurd story or a B-grade rom-com, but with the world that Del Toro creates, it feels real and audiences connect to the bond between the two characters. One of the biggest things he does is use real suits and makeup for his creatures rather than computer-generated images. In a scene where the creature and the woman are dancing, that's a real guy in the suit, and it makes all the difference in the world. Regardless of how a film approaches its world building, it's an important part of the filmmaking process that helps an audience believe in the stories and characters being presented, as well as connect more strongly to the emotions that the film is trying to convey. 2001 was an incredible year for fantasy movies, with both Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings releasing that year to widespread acclaim, and each film capturing the essence of a great fantasy world, not just through the writing, but through the way the film itself presents the story. Both of these series have had movies released since 2001 that didn't live up to the originals, and a lot of that is because they couldn't capture the magic that these fantasy worlds require. If you can't make an audience believe in the worlds that these characters live in, how are they going to believe in the ups and downs of their lives? A good fantasy world really sticks with you, as evidenced by the many fans of Tim Burton and Guillermo Del Toro who are excited for a film simply because they know these directors are talented at making believable, creative worlds. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and comment your favorite fantasy world below. My favorite is Conan the Barbarian. Thanks for watching.